Hi there and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's APMG webinar in partnership with TAB Solutions. My name's Estelle Hicks-Bennett and I'll be your host and moderator today, and I'm delighted to be joined by presenter Suresh GP, founder and managing director of TAB Solutions in Singapore. You can see Suresh in his webcam up there. Hi Suresh.
Hey Estelle.
Suresh specializes in IT service management, IT governance, agile, DevOps, and the topic he's focusing on today, BRM. He's had nearly 20 years practitioner experience under his belt, so you're in very good hands today. Suresh will be explaining the BRM role in the context of digital transformation today. Just before I hand you over, a little bit of housekeeping. We are recording the session today. And we will be sending you the session and a download of the slides after the webinar. You'll see your questions panel or your chat panel on the right-hand side of your screen, hopefully. It may be difficult for you to access this if you are on a mobile, but please do send questions throughout. Suresh has said that he'd really love to hear your questions and engagement all the way through, but we will be tackling questions at the end as well. We welcome any feedback, positive or constructive, and it helps us to ensure we're providing the content that you want. So great to have you with us today, and over to you, Suresh. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Estelle. Thank you, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, one and all. I'm extremely grateful for you for having taken time now to spend an hour with us, and we hope that you find this session more useful and get some takeaways after this 1 hour webinar to take back to your workplace. So we will make sure that we are committed to deliver value for the session in terms of business relationship management. I wanted to make it more interactive and engaging. And as you know that we are in a situation that we are doing this as an online webinar. So what would be useful is to get everybody put on the chat window from which place are you signing up from? So it could be any location in the world. I would love to hear from where are you joining from. So I know that it's good afternoon or good evening or good night. I know that it's 8 o'clock Singapore time. It's much later in Australia. It's 5:30 India time. So I would love to see you putting some of your locations at the chat window, right? Okay, so we're going to talk about the BRM role in digital transformation. Now, the first question is BRM, is it business relationship management or is it business relationship manager? So we'll find it out. What is it all about? So a brief agenda for today. We will look at an introduction about myself as well as to the BRM, right? What is BRM? We will talk about how does business relationship management or manager support organizational success, because every organization is now looking at being a digital organization. And it was clearly evident with pandemic of COVID-19, we are accelerating the digital adoption. So what does it mean from an organizational standpoint of success? One of the most common things that we are talking about here is we are talking about people having the right skills and competencies to develop BRM as a capability. So we are going to talk about what are the core competencies that you need to build if you need to become a business relationship manager. And we are a consulting company with over 6 years of experience as a company of TAB Solutions spread over India, Singapore, and in the US. And we think that it's important for us to share some of the practical lessons learned by looking at BRM as a capability at the first place. And the most important part is when everybody talks about digital transformation, how does the BRM play a role in digital transformation? And of course, for every one of you, we need to talk about what are the opportunities, trends, and areas for career expansion. How can you move up the corporate ladder by taking the BRM role or a discipline and gain strategic advantage? And then we will have a Q&A. So we expect about 45 minutes to run through this session. and then we'll have a lot of time for Q&A. I would definitely encourage you to put your questions on the chat window and on the window where we can pick it up at regular intervals, so that you don't need to worry about whether you'll forget the question. So with that, I'll probably get this one going. So as I said, as Estelle was mentioning, my name is Suresh GP. I'm the Managing Director of Top Solutions. Overall, about 20 plus years in the industry. Started with service management, IT governance. The last 5 to 6 years has been more on organizational change management, business relationship management, agile, and DevOps. I also speak in a lot of these international conferences on thought leadership. And I was honored to be an ITSM Contributor of the Year 2013 by ITSM of Singapore. And I've also been awarded the HTI's Top 25 Influencers in Service Management. I'm also very thrilled to be the Regional Ambassador for Asia Pacific for BRM Institute since 2015. So what have we done? As a company of Top Solutions, so Top Solutions stands for Taking You Beyond. So our vision was to take our business partners to envision strategic outcomes. So we have trained over 1,000 plus people across the globe since 2016. And we were recipient of 4 Excellence Awards in BRM Connect in Washington, namely the Global Community Impact, Consultant of the Year, Mentor of the Year, and Community of Interest. And as a consulting company, we have also helped organizations succeed in terms of applying BRM as a capability. So we have done it with merchandising company, management consulting, clinical research organizations, automotive companies. So one of the good news is it doesn't matter which domain you belong to. It could be a public sector company, private sectors. We are seeing a huge explosion on BRM as a capability, and that's what we're going to run through this. We are also a registered coaching and consulting company, and I'm one of the 6 worldwide coaches on BRM. So some of the accolades from what we have delivered in the last 6 years. So I was awarded the Trailblazer Award in 2016 at Sydney, and also the 4 awards in terms of BRM Excellence that you see in 2017. This is in 2019 in New Orleans, where I was honored to be the BRM Coach Trainer of the Year 2019 in New Orleans. And the person you see on my left in this one, on the image on the right, is Aaron Barnes, who is the CEO of BRM Institute. This was in 2020. This time we went all virtual, and I was also deeply honored to be a part of the Global Community Impact 2020 winners. So with that, I'm going to start about what is BRM and how are we going to get through this. So we have about 40 people live attending, but I want to make this switch gears, if I may, to look at a small video for every one of you to understand what is BRM in our opinion. Okay, so are you able to see my video here? Okay, I'm going to put that. There's still, if people can see the video then.
Can't see the video just at the moment, Suresh, unless you press play. And I do know that it may not play out on phones. There we go.
Is it okay? Is it playing?
It's playing, yes.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, thanks. Okay, so that probably gives us an overview of what the BRM is capable of. Now let's start with some of the basics. So business relationship manager or a management is a discipline, right? And when we talk about this whole thing, we are talking about the relationships are more important these days. So irrespective of which function you belong to, being sales, marketing, HR, finance, IT, we are moving away from being a back office to be the mainstream function. So there are business, we call as business partners. We don't call them as customers because customers are more transactional relationships. Anybody whom you serve is called a business partner because you have vested interest to make them successful. So we serve the business partners. And we put this discipline as a business relationship management. Now, there are three roles that you can play as a business relationship manager. One is we call as the connector role. So we bring in the two parties. So we have the business partner on the left-hand side. I have a provider organization. It could be IT, it could be finance, it could be HR, it could be legal, it could be marketing. So what we do is we connect. So as a BRM, you connect between the business partner and the provider organization, right? So that's one way of making the connection to two people. Like for example, APMG is doing a great role today to connecting top solutions with the rest of the community in APAC to bring them the awareness of business relationship management. So they are playing the role of connector to bringing in all of us together in this wonderful webinar. The next one is navigator. Navigator meaning we navigate what the business needs in terms of their goals and objectives, and we also look at what does the provider do in terms of capabilities and selling. So we navigate between the business partner and the provider to understand how we can work together collaboratively to make it win-win. But the most important part that I call is the orchestrator. Let me give you an example. Steve Jobs, used to get a thunderous applause when he used to present his new product in Bay Area in San Francisco. So every time there was a launch of iPod, iPhone, there was a thunderous applause. And every time Steve Jobs used to be hogging the limelight. So one of the engineers who worked with Steve Jobs went and said to Steve, this is unfair. We as engineers do all the hard work behind the scene, and you are getting all the credit. Is it not unfair? And he looked at him and said, he smiled. He said, you are all individually great musicians. You are a guitarist, you are a violinist, you are a lyricist, and you are the best in class. And that's why you are part of my crew. But remember, I am the orchestrator. Only with the orchestrator, you get symphony. Otherwise, you get cacophony. So the whole role of the BRM here is to become the strategic orchestrator who looks at right from the requirements or needs of the business partner till it gets finally delivered, but also provides that value that is anticipated in the first place. That is the role of what we call as orchestrator. So you're playing the role of connector sometimes, you're playing the role of a navigator sometimes, and an orchestrator. Okay, so that's the starting point of business relationship management. Now, we have to be very careful that many of the organizations worldwide do not have a dedicated role called business relationship manager. But everyone in the value chain, you could be a solution architect, you could be a incident manager, you could be a project manager, you can be a service specialist, you could be an IT director. Everyone can play the role of relationship management, because guess what? Everybody in the value chains are focusing on serving their respective business partners. So each and every one in the value chain can play the role of business relationship management as a capability, not just as a role. And just for people wondering who are the companies or which are the companies that are getting to do these elements, we see global brands, global governments looking at BRM. So you see United Nations following BRM. We are seeing companies like BMW, PepsiCo, Shell, Deloitte. They're all having business relationship managers worldwide. And in Johnson and Johnson, they have in Johnson Controls, they have a specific BRM practice that they are working through, and a large equipment manufacturing company deploys more than 400 plus BRMs worldwide. So it is also being popular across private sectors and public sectors. So we have been quite happy to have been doing a lot of these engagements at the first place. Now, one of the things that people get blown away when they come to business relationship management is the maturity model. So on the left-hand side, as you see, you have the business relationship, the business partners at one end, and on the right-hand side, we have the provider organization. So in terms of relationship, there are 5 levels of relationship maturity that you can envision. So the first one is ad hoc, the loudest in and first out, right? So nobody even cares about it. There are so many people. So if there is anybody who's shouting, you get an attention, right? So there's so many players at level 1. The level 2 is an order taker. If you go to a restaurant and place an order, they just take orders. Oh, you need this steak, you need this pasta, this food. Let me get this off the radar. Very simple. So that's an order taker. We just do what is being asked to do it. Sometimes you have had discussions with your business partners, and you tell, "Can you please tell me the rationale of why we need to do this project?" Well, don't ask me any questions. Just get it done. That's your work. So that is more like an order taker. You don't have any other visibility of why your business partner is doing certain things at the first place. Then we have the service provider, which you have the service level agreement, the operational agreement, you have a contract. So they know exactly what is to be delivered as part of your provider organization. A hosting services, a database services, or providing ERP solutions. So it could be any of that stuff. That's a clear deliverable, timelines, and service level agreements. Most of the organizations worldwide, they get stuck at level 3. But what we are looking at, if you want to become a strategic partner, you need to go into the level of trusted advisor and then a strategic partner. So trusted advisor means that your business partner is calling you, though it is not part of an issue which you can manage, they think that you can be of help. And every time you see someone calling you, when it is not part of your job, it means they trust you. They need your advice. They need your decision to make them get through this maze. So it's absolutely important that you need to earn the trust over a period of time. And finally, the goal, which is the goal of nirvana, is the strategic partner role, where risk and rewards are shared, where we work together as one single organization, not just as a business partner and provider. We are integrated as one single organization, which is sharing rewards and also sharing risk. Now, that is the level of ultimatum that we need to focus of becoming strategic, and it doesn't happen in a day. It requires a lots and lots of work to move towards from the service provider role to strategic partner role. So we see these aspects as tactical roles, where you're doing service management, you're doing operations, you're doing project management. These are all sometimes tactical in nature. As you start to become strategic, you look at portfolio management. You look at more about organizational overall strategy, vision, and see how we can achieve outcomes. So anything to do with outcomes and goals are going to be more strategic in nature. A lot of times we talk with people, they say that, how can I get a seat at the table? Why am I not getting involved on strategic conversations? Because they don't see you as strategic. So all your discussions are more towards focusing on some elements which are very tactical. I tell this more often to my people that it is very difficult to think strategic when your pants are on fire. You all agree? Any escalation, anything that happens, you don't have time to think because you need to focus on fixing this issue. And BRMs are people like eagles. They soar high. They look at things, how I can help my business partner. They are not chickens. Because what happens in chickens, they're actually neck down and they're only focusing on certain elements without really understanding, am I adding value to the whole conversation? So this is one takeaway you can take on to see how does your business partner think that you're delivering value. You might think that you are at a trusted advisor level, but they might think you are at a service provider level. And remember, any rating that you get is -1 if it's an internal organization. Why? Let's say if they give you a rating of service provider as an internal group, they don't want to make you feel offended. So you're only at an order taker level. So this is like the acid test to really look at how is my services, how is my products, how is my solutions helping them achieve outcomes. Any questions on this one? So the whole goal is moving from ad hoc, order taker, service provider, trusted advisor, and strategic partner. And we have actually helped a lot of organizations work through that. And we have also earned the trust of becoming a strategic partner in the first place. Because there are so much competition as a service provider. The only place that doesn't have so much of competition is when you step up to the game of trusted advisor and strategic partner. I want to quote what Simon Sinek tells about an infinite game. There are two games. One is called the finite game. The other one is called the infinite game. In a finite game, you have winners and losers. So you play a soccer game, you play a cricket game, you play a hockey game. There's one winner, one loser. But people who play that strategic role are playing the infinite game. They keep on playing. They keep on learning. They keep on equipping themselves. They keep on adding value. And that is where you get to the stage of strategic partner. It's not about contented to reach the top. It's very easy to reach the top, but very difficult to retain the top. So that's where this very focused outcome based on a strategic partner relationship. So what is the purpose? And Business Relationship Management Institute is doing a phenomenal job since 2013 in professing what is business relationship maturity model. So you can look at the different functions of HR, legal, marketing. How do they all work together? How is finance providing you solutions? How am I able to log into my payroll, make my claim reimbursement process? Is it easy or is it tough that I need to fill in all these forms and details? So you need to focus on a couple of important things called demand shaping. We'll talk a little bit about it. Capability road mapping, portfolio management, and value management. These are very strategic in nature. Now, when you say portfolio management, and APMG definitely has got a course on portfolio management, we are focusing on portfolio management from a business perspective. So the overall business strategy is broken down into portfolios. From portfolios, you look at programs, and from programs, you look at projects. Now, while projects are focusing on time, the deliverables, and the cost, we are looking at programs to deliver some kind of outcomes and our portfolios to deliver final value. So that's how we need to start to focus around that. Now, if you have been following BRM Institute, and I would strongly recommend you to go to the brm.institute, which has been doing a pioneering research on business relationship management, has clearly portrayed the new industry 5.0, right? We all know that we have moved away from industry 3.0 to 4.0 to 5.0. That 5.0 is referring to a relationship-centered organization. Everyone in the value chain, your business partners, your providers, your third-party vendors, your employees, they all have to work in partnership. They need to focus on the relationship as a source of value, right? It's not about I'm right, you're wrong. It's having that sense of ownership, a shared ownership, where we work together as one team. And that is changing the whole dimensions of how you look at this whole part of the puzzle. It's about making that impact with the planet, the purpose, and people. So that triple bottom line is so important. It's all about people. It's all about driving it by the sense of purpose and making sure that we are sustainably living this planet well for the next generation. So what are some of the skills and competencies Well, I'll take a break, a small break. If there are any questions from what we have discussed so far on the chat window.
I have got one question here that they're being a little bit shy, Suresh, but we have got, I will go back to say that we have got people from literally all corners of the globe here, which is superb. I'm trying to open the actual chat window at the moment. So we've got people from Malaysia, Australia. I'm thinking, what, someone's awake in the middle of the night there. UK, US, India, China, Germany. So they're from all over the place. But I think you did touch upon this earlier, but someone's saying it that they were under the understanding that a BRM role was more just for IT, but they're feeling that that might not be the case from what you're saying.
Sure, I think that's a great question for whoever asked it, and I'm so grateful everybody's staying that and long to do it. Now, one of the things about, as I said, one of the benefits of business relationship management, relationship is everywhere. It doesn't matter whether you're part of IT, finance, HR, sales, marketing, legal, pharmaceutical company, automotive companies. Everyone requires that relationship, that trust, and believing in each other and delivering value to your product, to your business partners in terms of products and services. So absolutely, it has to be something which goes beyond just IT. IT is predominantly a shop that is very popular, but I have had instances where we have delivered with pharmaceutical companies, clinical research companies, manufacturing companies, which they think that this is so important because we want to work together as one organization, and that's what we will talk about in terms of challenges. Yeah, so absolutely. So let's kind of deep into the skills and competencies that is required, but then to set everybody onto the same page. And this is where I think still that aspect is getting covered here. So if you look at this graphic, you see the BRM being part of every group. So finance, HR, IT, retail, facilities, merchandising, supply chain. So there are three aspects to be understood. One is the role as a BRM. You have a designated title called Business Relationship Manager. So you play the role of a connector, orchestrator, and navigator. We talked about all these three options, right? Then we have the discipline. The discipline is like the body of knowledge. So in the business relationship management professional, we have the BRM body of knowledge, like PMBOK, project management body of knowledge. We have something called as business relationship management body of knowledge. So it gives you techniques, it gives you tools, it gives you templates. So you know how you need to do business relationship management in the first place. But then we talk about capability. So in your organization, in spite of the role that you play as an architect, as a solution manager, as an IT director, as a service desk specialist, or a project manager, or portfolio manager, you can utilize the discipline, the knowledge, into real practice so that your business partners are extremely happy about it. So capability is more from an organizational standpoint, that everyone in the value chain is able to bring those learnings, their experiences, the resources, and then able to culminate in things to definitive outcomes. So you can play a role.
Suresh, sorry to interrupt you in your flow there, but just a couple more have come in whilst you've been talking, so I'm guessing that they'd like you to tackle this now. Edward just commented that he likes the -1 internal polite review. And hello to Malawi as well. We've got someone from Malawi there. And so Abhishek, I hope I've said your name correctly, is saying, what's the difference between BRM and marketing? Interesting question.
Excellent question. So we know that marketing is about showcasing your capability, isn't it? Most of the times it's either you're marketing your products and services to consumers. So we tell them how great it is, why you need to buy the product or a service. That's all great. While business relation manager is building an organizational capability, how we can deliver value at every touch point. So let me give you a very simplified example. We all fly different airlines. So one of my favorites is Emirates or Singapore Airlines, right? Well, I've been in Singapore for a while. So Singapore Airlines or Emirates, if you look at the whole experience of right from booking your tickets to getting on time, to getting your baggage done, on-time departure and on-time delivery, you find that at every touch point, you have everyone resonating with the same value concept. So what does BRM do is that they orchestrate all the moving parts, the requirement gathering part, the design part, the build part, the test part, the deployment part, entire together in totality like the orchestrator, so that the final outcome in terms of customer reaching the destination on time is seamless. Now that's a lot of work. You cannot do it that single-handedly saying that, oh, my role is just providing these badges or just tickets, or I'm only in the airline counter. So that is why business relationship management has got a broader focus if you are becoming an orchestrator to look at every touch point of your business partner experience to make it magical. So it is much broader than just doing marketing. Of course, you have to do marketing. So BRM should leverage the marketing expertise, but they all leverage each and everyone's expertise to finally deliver outcomes and business value. Hopefully that answers this question, Abhishek.
That's great, thank you. Do you want some more now, or do you want to come back to something?
Go ahead. You're on the floor.
Okay. We've got one. I'm going to call you Raj for the moment, which is very rude of me, but I hope you'll understand who you are. So how is the orchestrator different from the business analyst, please?
That's a great question. So typically what happens is the business analyst, and I have been myself as a business analyst. So when I tell something, I've gone through that, right? The business analysts are today writing requirements in the form of user stories or story points based on if you're following Agile. In many of the cases, we are moved from waterfall to Agile. So you try to understand from the requirement from the business partner standpoint, you try to look at more from a requirement. But these requirements are more towards tactical requirements. So I need to provide this solution. So I'm trying to decide which features I'm going to have it, which functionality I'm going to do that, who is going to be using that functionality. It's very tactical in nature at the moment when it comes to business analyst. Whereas a BRM is a person who is experienced, who also talks the business language, but also starts to, and in fact, it's a good career progression from being business analyst with lots of experience and also working with companies, working with different diversified roles to become a business relationship manager or board. It's business relationship managers are getting to get a seat at the table. They're also helping them to elevate their positions in the current ways of working from moving from tactical to being more strategic. So they talk about the business domain. They have a business acumen. They understand the pain of the business partner and helps that to shape the demand. So they don't do demand management. They do demand shaping. So that's a much higher skill that comes with experience and expertise. But also one of the things that you can be good at BRM is when you spend a lot more time within the same organization, because you get that trust. You get to know people, how to get working with that people. So business analyst is a good starting point, but requires the level of experience and also the strategic thinking to talk the language of the business. And having an understanding about the technology as well as the business domain is so important to get a seat at the table. And that's how I look at BRM, as to be a gradual progressions over a period of time. With experience, expertise, you become BRMs. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. I think if we carry on with the presentation for now, yeah. Suresh, we'll come back to some more questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Estelle. So what are the key competencies? If you look at this graphic, having like a core, I'm just opening up the different layers. There are 6 competencies that we focus in the business relationship management discipline. And I tell this one very clearly that we sometimes are very pathetic in communications. We use the same lingo with all the people in the value chain, which defeats the whole purpose. So our focus has to be on delivering powerful communication. So which means that we need to know the audience, the persona, what do they need, and what value can I actually talk about, rather than just boiling the whole ocean. I've had people who have talking about tactical things to strategic people where they just say, hey, you know what, I'm not interested anymore. When you talk with the C-level audience, you only get 15 minutes. You don't get an hour. So within 15 minutes, if you don't make an impact, the chances are that they are not going to listen to you. So you need to really be an expert on powerful communication. So powerful communication is not just about written or spoken communication, but also understanding body languages, non-verbal cues. So that's very important for us to understand that. So we teach about the techniques and the tools for you to become effective in terms of powerful communications. Then BTM, Business Transition Management, is more about organizational change management, right? I always say that people want everybody else to change. They don't want themselves to change. So how do we make sure we adapt to this whole digital world? How do we enhance our processes, people, technology, everything together? Provider domain is service management. How do you do delivery of service to meet the fit for purpose and fit for use? Portfolio management is looking at where are we spending our time, effort, and money? What projects are we going to do? I had a lot of instances where people say that we are looking at this project and the project was killed because the money is going into drain. So how do we kill projects or programs which is not delivering any more value, which I call as value leakage? And the next important part is business IQ. I talk with a lot of CXOs. They say that, Suresh, you know what is the problem? When these people, technical people, talk to us, they talk technical jargons. It just goes over my head. We don't understand anything of that. So we said, can we talk the language of the business in the way they can articulate it well in terms of profitability, business growth, and market share? Not just about my turnaround time, my response time, and resolution time. Who cares, right? So one of the things that we need to start to think about is go away from the watermelon syndrome. I tell this more often. Watermelon, how does the watermelon look outside? Lush green. It's all green. All your SLAs are all green. But the moment I open the watermelon, it is bleeding red. The customer or the business partner is bleeding. So we need to start to measure business KPIs, not IT KPIs. Last but not the least is to get to the core of becoming a strategic partner. So for the 3 days, we only spend on these competencies. It's a lot of discussions, very interactive, very practical guidelines of how you go about it. So these are 6 competencies you must possess in order to become effective as a business relationship manager. You might not have the title, but it's still okay. And this was one of our organizations that we worked with. We divided into different sections, right? What is supposed to be the role of a strategic partner? What do you mean by business IQ? What do you mean by portfolio management? And with every BRM, we wanted to rate themselves. It could be an individual rating. It could be then rated by your manager. And then they decide how did you perform at the first place. So getting an overall understanding of where you are will tell whether you're going to be a strategic BRM or a tactical BRM. So giving some practical insights with use cases, and this is where our consultings help because we are applying BRM as a capability in organizations. So we work with that, and APMG has got a very robust certification called to become a coach. You need to have practical implementation of BRM into a client organization. They will get a feedback from the client, and we need to do a 3 hours of interview to become a coach. But it's worth the time and effort because you're not only talking about something very theoretical, you're helping the organizations to achieve value with these competencies. So depending on what kind of BRM you're going to look at it, for example, in operations, we might not need a strategic BRM. In service management or operations sec, we might have a tactical BRM. So you might want to focus on provider domain and powerful communications. But if you want to be a strategic BRM, I would probably focus on strategic partnering and business IQ along with powerful communication. So it's very, very important to decide what kind of role do you play and what competencies will have to have a higher precedence over the other. Okay, so that's how I look at it. Everybody must have some basic level of competencies, but to become expert, you need to enhance your skills around that. Okay, so that's, I would say these 6 competencies are must have in spite of what role you play today in the organizations. So why BRM and what is that? And I think I found out this to be one of the meanings. It's all along we have been talking about value creation, right? So if I want to deliver value to my business partners, to my end clients, or whatever you call as, they talk about value management as an exercise. So we talk about discovering what is value, looking at planning of value, looking at enablement and realization. But one thing we have to be very careful, it all starts with relationship building. If I don't have the right relationship, if I don't build the right experience, then value management does not happen. So the fundamental touch point for you to navigate through this whole maze is what I call as the relationship management in the first place. And then you move into building experience, like positive experience. I tell people that every positive experience is putting $1 into the account. So all the time that you have a positive experience with your business partner, you grow up your kitty. And every time you have a negative experience, you're getting $1 or a dime from the account. So all that matters is the experience management. In fact, we have moved away from service level agreements to experience level agreement as we talk about. So experience indicators, because the transaction surveys are no longer sufficient for us to do it. And that is why the starting point of the industry 5.0 is to start with relationship management, experience management, and then go into value management at large. Okay, some of the lessons that we have learned in the BRM journey is going to be humbling. Well, we have seen a lot of times, and this is across sectors, manufacturing, retail, pharmaceutical, merchandising, healthcare, you name it, insurance. People do a lot of demand management. They just do what they're asked to do it, right? Because that's what we are getting paid for. But we need to focus on things that really matter the most, which we call as demand shaping. We'll say that, oh, I think we have to focus on these initiatives because this will help us in the long run. In fact, if you look at Amazon, at any point of the time, they drive 10 initiatives which are in an exploratory phase. Exploitation and exploratory. Exploitation means for sure, it's a cash cow. You just do it again and again. You get money out of that. But exploratory is something which is very much strategic in nature. It might not give you immediately the value, but over a period of time, it might give you that value. So what do you do about that? What will be happening when we are trying to focus on that elements is you are not contented with what you're doing today. You're playing that infinite game. Remember I talked about? So you're shaping the demand for the future. So those companies stay for a longer period of time and the other companies actually perish. Nokia as an example. Nokia in 2001 was a market leader with 85% market share. And they actually got sold to Microsoft in 2016. And the Nokia CEO cried and he said, I do not know what we did wrong, because they didn't do demand shaping. They were doing demand management. So very important is to shape the demand of what does the future hold for our company. And that's so important. We talked about the maturity levels. That's a good indicator to go back and visit your business partner to say, what do they perceive us? Not what do we think about? And we all have this one, hey, it is business, we are IT. And that is not the way we need to work. We need to work on convergence. So please ditch the word called alignment. We don't talk about alignment anymore. It is no longer called business IT alignment. It is business IT convergence. So when I'm trying to do a strategy formulation, how am I kind of bringing in together to deliver something of substantial value? When it talks about value, as important as you measure value, one of the roles is to prevent value leakage. An example for a value leakage is unplanned outages. I talk with a lot of CXOs, they say, Suresh, my biggest nightmare is unplanned outages. Something went down, the system went down, all of those stuff, and there is a huge hue and cry happening around. So there's all value leakage. I talked with portfolio managers, they said, we spend so much, millions of dollars in that particular portfolio or that initiatives, but we didn't get value out of that. That is value leakage. So as important as we start focusing on value creation, one of the role of the BRM is to prevent value leakage. Well, I always think that my father used to say that electricity saved is equal to electricity produced. It is similar thing. Every dime you save, it's going to be better in how we are going to look at that at the place. And then last but not the least, that we have a lot of strategic discussions at a very high level, but people are not able to connect the dots. So you need to have something like a balanced scorecard where you're able to break it down into the customer quadrant, the financial quadrant, the operational efficiency, and the innovation quadrant. So we need to look at how the business strategy drives IT strategy and how the portfolios are all linking together, right? It is found that digital transformation requires business transformation. Whenever you talk about digital transformation, it's all about business transformation. And majority of the organizations we see doesn't have a strategic BRM. Someone who could drive the entire conversations end to end. And 70% of IT investments don't deliver value. And that is what I call as value leakage. So that is a great opportunity if you are going to be a BRM to step up the game and solve a lot of these aspects to do that. So as BRMs, we can do anything, but not everything, right? You're not a single point of contact. You're a single point of focus. So I can do everything as a managing director, but if I do everything, I cannot do that. So for me, I get help from Kiran, I get help from Seema, I get help from Sunil, I get help from Suresh and Satya because they are a part of my team. And when they are helping me to do this one, it becomes much easier so that I focusing on everything, right? We need to move away from siloed culture to be a part of it. And most of the times we don't talk the business language, which I already told. And if you don't know why we are doing this project, please ask them, why on the earth are we doing this project? What happens if we don't do this project? So having a clear understanding of the why, going back to the golden circle of Simon Sinek's why, you will have a clarity of why we are doing this at the first place. And then we need to have change management in the way we work. So any questions so far, Estelle, on the system?
Yes, we do. We've got quite a few coming in again, Suresh. So I think that this is a good opportunity. Again, I think you've just really touched on this point, but let's get it nice and clear. Edward's saying, if our IT business partnerships, brackets BRM, team is split into each member looking after the relationship between IT and lines of business, while the CIO orchestrates, looks after the whole, how can each of us be orchestrators?
Well, I think we need to be very careful that at the end of the day, it's all about, am I making my business partner or the end client successful? We all play the role of contributor. Well, I tell a lot of times that if you don't worry who gets the credit, we get everything done well. So it doesn't matter. You can still give the orchestrator role for the CIO because he's orchestrating it. And you play the role of helping him and contributing him in every sections. So the whole point is not just to get the ownership of becoming an orchestrator, but are we able to interface with the different teams and different business functions and business lines in a way effectively that we can deliver value? So do not worry about playing the role of orchestrator, just play the role of a contributor. And over a period of time, you will gain that role of becoming an orchestrator. So that's how I would do it.
Okay, great. And how do you uproot an existing trusted advisor by making inroads into your prospective client? That's a very knowing look, Suresh.
Yeah, so can you repeat back again? Just want to make sure that I understood it correctly.
Certainly, you should be able to see it in the questions there as well, but it's how do you uproot an existing trusted advisor by making inroads into your prospective client? So I think Rahul's saying that if you're coming along to be the shiny new person, how do you do it diplomatically? Is the way I'm reading it.
I think it's to be very careful to play a fair game. I always tell that you need to play a fair game. You know why? Just because someone as an incumbent had that strategic advantage, the trusted relationships and other stuff, don't worry too much about it. Don't be shy about it. Be open and receptive. I always tell that you need to be open and receptive, and your results should speak volumes, and more importantly, that communication. So having an open mind and understanding from the perspective of your client or a business partner is so important. What does success mean for my business partner? How can I make them successful? So remember, it doesn't matter whether you're playing a tactical role or a strategic role. Our focus is to deliver business value. And that's where we're going to focus our time and effort on that, right? So our important is, as long as you make your business partners successful and understand why, what are their constraints, what are their issues, in an open mind, and being receptive of all those constructive and non-constructive feedback as well, because it takes time to build trust. It takes time to build that level of strategic partnership. One of the key characteristics of BRM is to have that patience. It is a marathon. It is not a short sprint. It takes so much time, effort, and energy to build that position of becoming strategic or a trusted advisor. Okay. Any other questions?
Again, should we just save those last ones to the end, Suresh?
Yeah.
Because someone was saying that they're really enjoying your wisdom and experience, but they want to hear what you've got to say. So that's great.
So I think one of the things that we need to focus is on demand shaping. We need to focus on, well, not focusing on a low value, high value. You have to focus on a balanced portfolio where we're getting higher percentage value in looking at things, whether it's what I call as a concept of essentialism, doing more with less, focusing on the most important items rather than doing everything at the first place. Partnerships. You cannot say that he's a vendor, he's a third-party system, then you don't have a skin in the game. We need to treat people as partners. And we have this whole notion when we work as a team that we are in together. We have to co-create value together, because then what happens? There's a skin in the game. The service provider, the partner, tries to get the best out of him and see how we can achieve that at the first place. And we need to make sure it is easy to do business. Because if we make it very complicated, then I don't think we will achieve anything worthwhile, right? So today I asked this question, and you can check for yourself, where are you spending your most amount of time? Business support, project support, communication, demand shaping, service management, IT leadership, education and training. So the boxes that I mentioned in orange is where you need to spend more, because the other ones are not making you strategic. I'm not saying it's not required. You need to still keep the lights on, do some BAU, but our focus has to move away from the tactical aspects to look at elements that will put us into a pedestal. Continuous learning, getting your new skills, getting your BRM certification, getting to understand and speaking in conferences, meeting people beyond your groups. That's all very important. So focus to this. If this one exercise you can do in your house is that look at where you're spending your most of the time, and then decide where should I spend more time. Then you would say whether you're going to be playing the role of being tactical or strategic in nature. So what does it take for digital strategy? We need to focus on demand shaping, not demand management. We need to have a clarity on the business strategy. So you, whether you're part of IT, finance, HR, you should know the business strategy very well. If you don't know, you go there and ask, because people would love to have that. Because without understanding the business strategy and the initiatives, you're not going to be successful. So we need to prioritize which is the most important initiative and how does it deliver value. And beyond benefits, focus on value realization. So if you look at this whole thing of how organizations work today, the business demand, we need to stimulate and shape the demand. That's where the relationship manager is playing a huge role. So there might be certain initiatives we have never done before, but we are pushing that focusedly, how we can do this much faster. Then you have a lot of assets, knowledge bases, solutions, infrastructure, applications. Are we getting value out of that? And then are we getting value in terms of business case to finally delivering outcomes? So all of those stuff are important, isn't it? In the terms of digital business, we need to look at demand shaping. We need to leverage and reuse assets and also ensure that value is realized. And sometimes we get confused between benefits and value. Benefits is very tangible in nature. Value is intangible in nature. So you need to go beyond just the benefits to understand what does value mean for you as a persona and decide on that. So this is one use case that we have done in a consulting engagements where we had business delivery teams, portfolio planning, app development, right? So they had the service level management, they had demand management, they didn't have demand shaping, and they had the BRM function. So based on the needs, they used to do a portfolio planning, looking at scheduling and execution. So based on what they went through our BRMP course, they looked at this aspect of applying this in real time towards looking at where they're going to have a tactical BRM. So they said that in service level management, we'll focus on tactical BRM. In demand management, we're working, make it as demand shaping, look at strategic BRM. So at every step, you might need to see what is the value add you're going to bring into the table. What is the value that I'm going to play as a role of a BRM? And then start to improvise from the beginning till the end. That's the role of a orchestrator in the first place. Okay. So what is it for you? This is something very important, right? So the entire aspect is covered by doing some career progression in terms of what I call as value, where we are talking about making yourself for an individual or as an organization. So we have a number of courses, right from executive brief, strategic partnering, but we're going to focus on a couple of them. The business relationship management professional, which APMG conducts the exam along with CBR, right? So these are two coveted certifications, which is called the business relationship management professional, which is a 3-day course, and certified business relationship manager, which is also a 3-day course, where the first one is a prerequisite to attend the second one. So you become a BRMP, and then once you have the BRMP certificate, you can go into CBR, right? Now, what is the difference between BRMP and CBRM? In BRMP, we focus on level 1 knowledge, your facts, your understanding, your tools and techniques, a bit of a comprehension, but then CBRM focuses on applying that in real-time story. So it's a case study oriented section. It's applying that. It's an open book exam. It's a 2.5 hours exam. It's very difficult, but if you are having real world experience and we teach them and coach them, you can become expert in doing that. And just as a standpoint, we have about 7,500 people worldwide, or 8,000 people BRMP certified, and about CBRM will be about 1,000 people. So you can be one among them. So I would definitely give you some resources about benchmarking, which clearly says that the BRM benchmarking compensation report says that people who possessed CBRM certification increased by 14% higher compensation. So from 100 to 150K, they are looking at higher ROI when you talk about compensation benefits. So there are other resources on global trends and challenges. You can look at that. I put them link. And top solutions page and APMG page, you can go through those aspects of it. And we have an upcoming training and workshops happening for November 20th and 22nd on business relationship management professional, and CBRM on November 27th and 29th. Guess what? You might complete the BRMP and you also sign up for CBRM. Right? With that, I will open up for any final questions. We have about 2 minutes left.
We have, Suresh. Sorry, I'll try clicking my mute button. And as requested, I'm going to put my camera on now. You know, I'm a bit shy, but hello everybody, and thank you very much for being here. And we've had apologies from one person who had to go. So, right, Rahul would like to know how do you establish the rapport or understand the body language, especially in COVID times? With virtual connects and Teams and Zoom and Google Meets, etc.
Very, 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 very valid question. I mean, it's tough. You know, I'm just paranoid about not meeting people. I was telling people that I am a person who's people oriented. I'm not getting people, but that shouldn't stop you. I think we need to make this virtual connects in terms of having your videos on, and more importantly, have authentic conversations, not just to please someone, but being genuinely interested to make them successful. When you do that, you are able to make an impact, and that's how we need to focus on. So we need to play with constraints. Everybody has got a constraint, but we need to turn around and see how we can deliver things. So have meaningful conversations. See every step of a conversation on an email and other stuff. How can I add value? Think about adding value in every conversations. You will feel it becomes magical.
I loved that. I loved your dollars in the account adding to the kitty earlier. That was a great phrase. You did just cover this, but just so that everybody is clear, because as you can imagine, I think this is very important. We're being asked, what are the prerequisites for the CBRM? Yeah, so CBRM prerequisites is you have to be a BRMP. So the BRMP, we talk about the three days of all the 6 competencies that we talked about, but then the CBRM course is applying this competency in a real life situation. So you will have a lot of stories about this org chart and other stuff. It's a loved class. I love CBRM class like anything, right? And we have all the people in Asia Pacific who have trained. We have been the persons who have trained on CBRM. So I'm really proud that we have been
doing a great role as an ambassador in the APAC region for CBRM. So I really recommend you to do that. And just before I forget, anybody who's interested to know more information, we are willing to give you a 15 minutes of chat option where you can sign up with us so that we can answer any questions, because I know there's a lots of information to be covered in 1 hour. I don't want to get you overwhelmed. You get the slides, you get the recording, but we'll be more than happy. Our team would be more than happy to answer any questions, to see where your organization is going to be in the journey and how you can fit into the whole thing. And believe me, BRM is just exploding. It's just exploding. And I'm sure that you will get excited, but what I'm excited, because all what we talked about, we are doing it in our real world. We are walking the talk. And I'm sure that you will also get benefit for you as an individual and also for you as an organization.
Great, thank you. You're so passionate about it, Suresh. It's wonderful. So Satya says, BRM as a capability, where is it positioned at organizational level? Is it within the IT organization or on the business side?
I have had experience of people who have got BRM both in the provider organization, which means we are having people at IT. There is also part of the business partner organization. So the sweet spot is if you have a BRM under the business partner organization. So we have both options available. As you get more mature, you get BRMs at the business partner organizations. Otherwise, by and large, it is at the IT side of it.
Okay, that's great. I'm very conscious of time, Suresh, and we need to do our thank you to you. So if I can, so there's a couple of questions here that are sort of related. So I think if we take 2 or 3 more, and then sure. We'll bring it to a close. So sure. One person said, how technical should the BRM be? That was Alexander. How technical does the BRM need to be?
Well, I think you have to know something about everything. For example, you need to know about Agile, you need to know about DevOps, what are they doing it? Basic fundamentals are important. You don't need to be a technical expert. And as I said that when I do a lot of consulting, people ask about, hey, what happens to scaled Agile framework? What happens to DevOps? So you need to have some understanding about this whole elements so that you can have some meaningful conversations. And having the basics with some great understanding of the purpose and how they all connecting the dots is more than sufficient. And I think you get it naturally when you are having that interest and keen insights. You don't need to be an expert, but you get better in what you get, some kind of pieces and connecting the dots. So I think you should be good, Alexander. And give us a chat if you want to kind of connect back and you have more conversations at all.
That's a great offer. Thank you very much. And in the follow-up email, we'll have your contact details as well there, Suresh. So I can't remember who asked this. I'm really sorry because I made a note separately. But is BRM a customer-only facing capability?
It's asked by Michael Schiffini. So I got that.
Thank you, Suresh, for doing my job for me. It's because there's so many questions. I've got them all up here. I can't lose them all.
Yeah, no, not really. In fact, BRM has been pronounced more as an internal organization capability. That's the sweet spot. You don't need to have it as a business or end client facing. It is possible, but most of the organizations I look at BRM, it's an organizational capability. They don't just serve internal business partners, the finance functions, the HR, legal, marketing. So absolutely, it could be a combination of in-house as well as external, but I've seen more often in-house or internal organization. Yeah.
Fabulous. And Raj has asked a few questions, so I'll take one of those and then we'll bring it to the close. He's saying, can we get scenarios used in other organizations? So I'm guessing that he can probably contact you.
And this is why I think you need to come to the workshops, because we can only do so much, but in our workshops we go into the details of practical insights of some of those things. So what we do, Estelle, is we first have a conversation with the person in terms of the background, their experience, and the domain. So we bring in that scenarios which are very relevant to them, rather than just boiling the whole ocean. And that's why we kind of adapt and adopt, rather than just looking at run-off-the-shelf programs. So that way, it's more meaningful for people to sign up, so that they get value on what they need to know, rather than what I want them to know.
Fantastic. Well, Suresh, what can I say? Thank you very much. You are just a bundle of energy, and I can feel those energetic waves all the way across the ocean here. So thank you so much for your wisdom and experience there. I've gone completely off script here, which is a good sign.
Thank you so much for people, and thank you so much for Estelle and APMG International to host this. It's been a great webinar. I hope you find it useful. Get in touch with us with APMG International. There are coordinates here. Connect with us on LinkedIn. We are here to serve you. As I said, you are all our business partners. We are, as Mahatma Gandhi says, that we are grateful that we have an opportunity to serve you. So we are here to serve you. So please get a hold of this opportunity for a 15-minute chat with us, and we'll be more than happy to have you give our insights. Thank you so much for taking this.
And hopefully we'll see lots and lots of those digital badges all over LinkedIn very soon.
Get digital badges so you can put yourself pronounced in LinkedIn about what your peers will be, I wouldn't say jealous, but they'll be proud of in practice. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Suresh. Thank you everybody
so
else for being so very engaged, and we will be in touch with you very soon. Thanks for coming. Take care. Goodbye.
Thank you so much.